2026 is going to be an awesome year. We got some pretty cool stuff coming up. First off, we got Foundations of Recovery. This is our flagship program. We're starting it in January.
This is for anyone, man, woman, or couple who wants to come and reclaim their heart from shame, trauma, and betrayal. We start off with an education on all sorts of principles, give you the common language. We feed you from a fire hose in terms of all things recovery.
It is such a great start to recovery. And we get at the roots of things, Tyler. This isn't like any other program. Like, this is our healing journey in process, and Foundations is where we begin.
If you look at the value that you're getting there to kick off a good recovery with all of the right education, all of the right language, and a team to get you started while also being directed by Brannon and myself through the whole process, what a deal.
So if you're interested, if you're struggling, if you've been wanting to do something for a long time, jump into this. This only comes around every so often, and we would love to have you there.
Click the link in the description to sign up for it. And to make it even sweeter, we're also including a raffle for a free pass to the Radiant Dawn retreat. Anyone who signs up for Foundations will be added to the raffle for that free Radiant Dawn pass. If you're a man and you sign up for Foundations, your name still gets entered, and you can give that pass away if you win it to any woman that you want to.
So what you're saying, Tyler, is if you sign up and participate in Foundations, you could possibly go to Radiant Dawn for free?
That's exactly what I'm saying, which is crazy because Foundations by itself is already an insane value.
Man, I sound so salesy. But it actually is awesome. So come to Foundations. And even if you don't come to Foundations, sign up for Radiant Dawn. It's beyond therapy, the best healing experiences that you can have.
Click the link below and come join us.
My family's so dysfunctional. How do I enjoy being around them for the holidays?
Welcome to the Real Talk Recovery Podcast with the Therapy Brothers.
We're brothers, we're therapists, and we know recovery.
Bring your stories, your questions, your successes with real recovery. All right, Brannon. Here we go. Here we go on the holiday family question.
Yeah, here we go. Hey, before we do, can I mention something?
Yeah.
I was having kind of a bad day the other day, and I had somebody, our buddy Sam, send me just a little package, and it was the timing of me getting it couldn't have been better. Like, I was having a hard day, just thinking, man, is this all worth it? And it was the nicest note. And he sent me a book that I can't wait to read. And I just wanted to shout out to him and say, thank you. That really meant a lot to me, and I appreciate it. So thank you, Sam.
That's awesome, Sam. It's funny, Brannon, like, we could maybe even do an episode on this. Just yesterday, I had a pretty taxing day yesterday. I was getting ready to go to bed. Right as I was getting ready to go to bed, I got this random text from a friend that I haven't talked to in probably more than a year. And it was like 3 or 4 paragraphs worth of text. And it just basically went off to say how much he appreciated our friendship and our relationship, and how he would be there for me if I ever needed somebody to talk to. And, and just like the timing of that was so phenomenal for me too. It's pretty cool to see how people just following through on their own intuitions really do get to, and I believe in some ways, act as the hands of God. It's like,
yeah.
It's pretty cool, man. So that's
I just think, if you get those feelings to do something nice for somebody, follow through with it. Don't talk yourself out of it, because, I was on the receiving end of this, and it was perfect for what I needed. So yeah, do it. Do good for people. Spread love. That's what life's all about.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
Speaking of spreading love, should we talk about family?
Yeah, let's do it, man. This is kind of like the time of the year. It's probably by the time this episode launches, it's going to be right between Christmas and New Year's. And it's that time of year where we get this all the time from our clients, the stress that comes from going back to places like your family of origin, spending time with your kind of original family. It's got this weird two-edged sword to it where you really want to do it. You're really connected to them. You really love them. You want to be connected to them, you want to love them, and at the same time, it drives your stress through the roof, and it drives you crazy, and you feel like you want to kill your siblings or your family or your mom or dad by the time you're done being together.
Yeah. Yeah. I always say when your family of origin is driving you crazy, that you're making some real progress in therapy. Yeah. Cause you come from somewhere. So,
Yeah.
but here's the other thing, Tyler, on Instagram and stuff, there's always these posts about like how to deal with your difficult family and, how do you handle them during the holidays and this and that. You got to realize too, you are on the other side of that. You are the family too.
You are that for somebody else.
Yeah, you're the dysfunctional side of it that's driving them crazy. So it goes
like
both ways.
Right now, somebody in our family is listening to us talk and going like, man, I have to deal with Tyler for the next week at Christmas time. What the heck?
Right. We all of us, our crap stinks, so to speak, in some ways. So just let's acknowledge that first and foremost, and then let's get into how to actually enjoy being around your dysfunctional family. And Tyler, do you know anybody who doesn't have a dysfunctional family?
I don't think they come fully functional because it's made up of flawed human beings, right?
Yes. Now some are more toxic than others. There's no doubt about that. Mm-hmm. Common things that happen are overstepping of boundaries, guilt trips, inappropriate things being said when, at the wrong times. What else, Tyler?
There's criticisms. There's like the kind of unspoken like eye rolls and looks that come.
There's drama.
Yeah, the little drama.
Just little dramas between people that then affect everybody else.
I think in families, there's so much water under the bridge with past experience that sometimes is still not fully kind of been made peace with, that it really sometimes gets in the way of the current as well.
Yeah. Okay. So with all of this stuff, when we're talking about getting together in tight proximity, cutting the ham or whatever you're doing, family traditions, where do we even begin to start to actually enjoy the holidays? The point of it is to connect with each other, to have a good time, to enjoy the season. Where do we even begin? What are some important things for people to understand to really be successful?
Good question. I think this is a hard question to answer specifically for everybody, because everybody comes from a little bit of a different kind of a family.
Yeah, we're trying to do it on a broad level.
Yeah.
Not so specific.
So we'll just talk about some kind of basic principles here that I think are really important. If we're going to go and spend time with family, the first thing that we need to do is we kind of need to go into it with our eyes wide open as to what is actually the reality of how our family system operates. If you go into your family system thinking about all these wonderful things that are going to go on with the holidays just because it's the holiday, but you forget that your family is still your family with its current issues and its current ways of communicating, those expectations actually can cause more suffering when the reality of how the family operates continues to be operating.
So I heard you say two things there, kind of. One, don't be in denial about what you're dealing with your family. And two, don't set yourself up with unrealistic expectations.
Yeah, I think yes, exactly. I think expectations is one of those principles that we can all kind of look at and say, am I being fair to myself and to other people with the expectations I have about how spending time with them is going to go?
I'm just making up examples. I'm going to expect grandpa to not be racist this holiday and not be a jerk. And then you go to family dinner and immediately he starts into his rants, right? Yeah. So if you have those expectations, you're set up.
Yeah.
Right?
Now the expectation is the setup, because it's just going to be the reality that grandpa's going to be grandpa.
Right.
Right.
With all of his inappropriate, horrible whateverness that's rubbing off onto your children.
Yeah, right.
This is just an example.
Yeah, right. Right. I know, yeah. So, but that's it. And I think on a general level, that's true, not just for like the holidays, but in general in our lives. When we set certain expectations that aren't based in reality, we are setting ourselves up for the potential of more pain and suffering and struggle because we're setting ourselves up for something that's probably non-reality.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. And I mean, that principle holds true in all of our relationships. That those expectations are premeditated resentments. They cause you suffering. And so rather than operating from what you think things should be, operate from a level of what things are.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually.
It's like for instance, like with our family, Brannon, whenever we get together, which I think this year we're all getting together, down on a trip together, there's going to come a time in our family where we're going to be all sitting around the table getting ready for dinner, and you're going to say, "Hey guys, I've got an announcement." And you're going to say, "I am the king of Jingaling." Right? And if I know you're going to do that, then I don't have to be surprised by it. I don't have to be bothered by it. Whatever.
Well, I told you to operate from truth. So I am the king.
Right.
I am
Right.
the king. So you need to accept the reality here. You're causing yourself your own suffering there.
That's what I'm saying. If I expect anything different than you saying that right at that moment, because that happens every single year, and unless I do something to either set some boundaries, if it bothers me that much to not be there during that moment, or I could approach you and ask you not to say it, but you'll probably still will. That'll cause me suffering anyway.
All right. I got some other ones.
Right.
Okay. So I really like what you've laid out there, just as kind of a foundation here, is don't be in denial about what you're dealing with. Don't have expectations that set you up. I got some other rules for people. And I think these two go hand in hand, so that they need to be together. And I'll say them both at the same time, then we can talk about them individually. You need to be honest about who you are and what your boundaries are, and actually follow through with those boundaries. So that's one thing. On the other hand, don't take things personally. And I know that's easy to say, but harder to do, especially with your family, especially with mom and dad, your siblings, with grandma and grandpa. It's like, but be honest about what you need and what works for you and what doesn't, even at the expense of, or at the consequence of the wrath of your family. Be honest about what, how long you can stay, what you need, who you are. If your, nieces and nephews are all running around with like snot all over their face, it's like, hey, our kids can't like go wrestle with them. I'm sorry. That's a boundary, right? But at the same time, if they get upset about what your boundaries are, or if they make these inappropriate comments or whatever they do, that's about them. It's not about you. So don't take personally their reaction to who you are. Does that?
I think the reason you paired those two things up together is that if we stay boundaried in being able to hold fast to knowing ourselves well enough to know what we can and can't engage in, knowing what our values are, it makes it a lot easier to not take those things personally, right? That happen when they come up. So it's like, if I take great exception to the fact that grandpa is going to say some racist comment, right? Then maybe it's on me to make sure that I set my boundaries, or maybe my boundaries include speaking up and saying something, or maybe my boundaries include maybe not being there for as long as maybe I would, just because I don't want to sit there and listen to those things.
Right.
Taking a time out would be a boundary, all that stuff. But then when that comment gets made, I'm gonna suffer less if I can still keep my boundaries at the same time that I go, I don't have to personally take affront to this. I don't have to, even if it's meant that way. We could do a whole episode on this one, Brannon. This is one of the 4 agreements, but
yes, but okay, let's say you have your boundary where it's like, okay, like I'm only going to stay so long and then we're going to go, and that's fine. We had a good time. We loved. And then when you start packing up to go, mom, dad, brother, sister, they're like, man, Tyler's always leaving early.
Yep.
There he goes. Like,
Mm-hmm.
He's the jerk.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where
your mom or grandma or somebody calls you and is like, why do you hate our family? Or what do we do wrong? Or like,
I'm so hurt. I'm so,
all that stuff that can feel personal. Right.
Right.
But what you're saying is the person who's approaching it or criticizing it is the one who's actually having the struggle.
Yeah.
Right. Rather than it needing to be about you.
That can take some real strength. And you could even get to a place where it's like, man, I really appreciate that you want us around. And I can see that it hurts that we're not. And thank you. As opposed to, why are you criticizing me? Why are you trying to force me? Why are you trying to control me? You can still choose what to operate what's in your control and let people have their feelings at the same time. Yes. And when families are overly enmeshed, that wipes that out. It takes away that opportunity for that separation. It's all of our feelings are one, and therefore everybody else has so much power over everybody else because we have to all feel and think the same. And that separation is really important.
Yeah. And or else you feel guilty. If you break away and you don't meet that mold, if you're in an enmeshed family system that way, it's really difficult to do those things. But you're right. I think that's an important thing. And I to go along with those things, Brannon, I think being able to have solid game plan for your boundaries before you go in and before you kind of step into that system where the emotion starts to get big and the patterns in the family start to take over. If you go in with a plan of knowing how you want to follow through on your own boundaries, that becomes helpful. And then having a plan to get grounded inside of that. It's okay to know, hey, I'm going to go for a walk every night and make a phone call to maybe one of my people in group, or maybe, we're going to go decompress as a couple for a 20-minute walk in the morning before we plan to hang out the rest of the day, or just kind of like almost like emotional hygiene inside of the system while you're there visiting.
I think that's really good advice, is do your dailies, do your self-care. Don't let yourself go just because you're consumed by being around family so much. Mm-hmm. In fact, the opposite is more true. You need to strengthen yourself, show up as strong as you can, and then you'll be able to show up for them and connect to them and make memories and experience life together. So, I got another scenario for you, Tyler. I want to throw past you. Just kind of see what your advice is here, your counsel is. So let's say that when you show up, you love your family, you want to spend time with them. They've all kind of done some work and are doing their best, but childhood was rough, and there's a lot there in the background, and there's some trauma and things like that. And when you get around your family, and it might be your in-laws, it could be your family, there's just a lot of triggers. There's just triggers everywhere. And it's not really what people say in those moments. It's just the nature of the situation. What do you do with that?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a really good question. When we look at even a lot of our clients with, say, sexual addiction, many of our clients, is the beginning part of their addiction actually came in the homes, in the bedrooms, in the places where they're actually going back to visit for the holidays. And so there's like the location part of it, but then there's the family system part of it. And the family system, like, even if there's been some work and some change there's a tendency to kind of move back towards what we call homeostasis, which is the way things used to be. Family roles, let's say I grew up and I was maybe the middle child, and I was sandwiched between like other kids with different personalities. And then I leave, I get my new marriage, I start to kind of create a new life for myself. But when I go back to the family system, I end up kind of being pushed back into that same role. Right. That I used to play, even though we know it's not necessarily that healthy or needed to change.
But it's just automatic. It's how everybody else starts treating you and expecting you to be that way. And
yeah, it's like the autopilot, kind of thing. it's a very difficult thing to break, especially because it's almost automatic. So being cognizant of it, being aware of it, and having a plan for how to manage it as you go into it becomes really important.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think depending on the system, even making that transparent sometimes isn't a wholly bad thing, as long as you can do it without having a lot of drama. If I'm the kid, if I'm the guy in the family who's always been the butt of the jokes, let's say, and I come back and we start going around the table with everything that we're grateful for, and it turns into like everyone take a crack on Tyler.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna have to do the thing you just mentioned, and I'm gonna have to have some level of boundary to not continue to perpetuate that same cycle
Right.
that used to be there.
Right. But it's the family will expect you to just take it, because that's the role that you play. And so if you go outside of that, you're going to actually shift something that's uncomfortable for everybody.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's easier to play along in those moments and have a lifetime of being the butt of the jokes versus being like, hey guys, can we talk about something else? Like, I'm done being the butt of the jokes.
Yeah. Right. And when you do that, the system, it's like a shockwave that goes through the whole system. So there's a ripple effect. It's like, oh wait, they're not playing their role. What, and there's a tendency for the system to actually get bigger and try to push it back into the role.
Yeah.
That's where I think a lot of people actually have problems with the holidays, is that here they are, they're going back to their family of origin after they've been
doing some good work
to change themselves. And then when they take that change back into their system, that's where the tension happens. That's why people always joke about like how stressful the holidays are. It's because that pushback on the system is actually a good thing in a lot of ways, even though it causes a lot of tension and stress.
Right. It's good change that's uncomfortable. Right.
Yeah, that's right.
And you don't want to come across as like, hey, I've been doing therapy and I'm better than, and so, but it's going to be, hey, like I'm just not going to engage in some of these unhealthy things anymore. And that could be uncomfortable for everybody. And I'm okay if they get uncomfortable. That's fine. I do want to come back to the trigger thing for just a second, Tyler, before we move on.
Yeah, let me speak to that too really quickly, because I didn't get to that part. The triggering part, what's interesting is that the research actually shows that triggers for like the addiction and emotional triggers are much more prevalent when you go back to that, family of origin. So it's really common to just already be on high alert with your own, just the physiology of the body is already on high alert. And if you're aware of that, then it can also be really helpful to just make sure that there is some intentional, almost like physiological care that's going on to help stay grounded so that you don't get swept off your feet back into that same old autopilot.
Right. So I'll give you an example. And it comes back to kind of what you were saying earlier. Let's say we just had Thanksgiving. Let's say it's Thanksgiving and I'm showing up early. We're going to spend the whole day together as a family and play games late into the night. Okay. So I get there, I walk into my, home that I was raised in, and there's just triggers everywhere. Brother and sister are fighting, other brothers making fun of me. Even though we're like 40-year-old adults, it's like all this stuff's happening, like all around me. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's taking me back to being 12 years old right now. I'm shutting down. My wife can tell that I'm uncomfortable. So what you just said is spot on, is come with a plan prepared, be willing to avoid certain triggers. So your triggers are your senses, but they're also your internal emotional triggers as well. So you can absolutely not go into certain rooms if you don't want to go into certain rooms. You can absolutely take a break in the middle of the day and go for a walk around the park that's far from that house. You could go do something like a cold plunge, for example. Like you could go really ground to Mother Nature of like, hey, I'm grounded. I'm okay. I can take care of myself. Now I'm going to go eat dinner. Now I'm going to go because I did this thing for me. So you don't have to stay in the trenches all day long and force yourself to be triggered. With triggers, we say we want you to acknowledge your trigger and see it and really realize that it's there and make peace with that trigger. But then we want you to actually instill a tool to cope with that trigger in a healthy way, rather than just let that trigger take your brain over and push you right back into the behaviors that it always has, right? So that's what we were saying. Be conscious of what the triggers are, and be aware that they're there, but also have a plan to deal with them in a healthy way. And you'll be able to navigate that day so much better.
Yeah, and I think it's like it goes along with another tool we teach called the cope ahead skill, which is many of us already know what some of the bigger triggers are going to be when we go get together with like the family of origin, right? And if we know what those are and we make a plan beforehand, we're much more likely to follow through on that plan when they do happen. And it's almost like we kind of see it unfolding. We feel like we're winning because we just follow the plan, right? Other times we can step in, we get blindsided by something that triggers us. In the aftermath of that, after we go and do what you just said, that grounding and that self-care, we need to look at that and say, okay, that's how likely is that to happen again? And if it were to happen again, how would I like to handle that in the future?
Yeah.
And that becomes another piece of that plan of coping ahead. And that'll probably be an ongoing process for quite a while. And a lot of times it'll take 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 or 20 repetitions of the same kind of thing before you start to catch it before it happening instead of after.
Right. Yeah.
But using those things as a means for learning, as a means for continued growth, actually takes some of the sting out of it, because now you see it as part of the process of growing instead of just something that's painful, that's a trigger. The other thing that I think is important is people think, and we're talking triggers, not just acting out triggers, emotional triggers. People think that a trigger is bad.
Right.
And a trigger isn't bad. A trigger is just an indicator to your system that something is going on. And
right.
when we view the trigger as the bad thing itself, it actually increases the likelihood that we won't be skillful in the way that we handle it. Instead of just going, oh, there's a trigger again. This time it happened this way, or this time it happened that way. Like, okay, how am I going to cope with this? What am I going to do with it? Remembering,
Tyler, that acceptance and that acceptance makes it conscious, which actually moves it to another part of your brain, which gives you a chance to actually choose what to do with it.
Yes.
All right.
That's right. Acknowledging and seeing the trigger is the mindfulness leads to deeper levels of agency. That's right.
Right. And then also be aware that you're probably going to have some triggers that you're not conscious of, that you don't see. And that's where you start to tap into your body and just be aware, like, man, my heart's been really pounding here, or my jaw clenches every time brother starts to tell another story, or whatever it is. Like, okay, what is that? What's going on here? I want to be conscious of this. And you find it through your body. And, but you won't find it if you just get into a state of panic and let your body just go, and you'll start to shut down.
Yeah. Excellent.
Tyler, one thing about it, and one thing I want to say, and maybe we can finish talking about this, but we're talking to kind of like, you're going to go walk into your, family dinner for Christmas and get hit by a freight train. And I think that's how it feels sometimes. Or that, your mom and dad and brother and sister are just a bunch of monsters who are out to get you. And the fact of the matter is, at least for me, and I can speak for me, is there's nothing I enjoy more and is more important to me than family. And I absolutely love being around family. And so, sometimes I think people are forced when their family's just dysfunctional, and they're like, well, it's the holidays, I have to be around them. And that sucks. And it sucks because they didn't choose that. They didn't choose to have families that don't really love each other. But ultimately, I think what I'm saying is family is good. Family is one of the best parts of life and the most important things about life. And Tyler, you're going to be the in-laws soon.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I mean, you're moving into all kinds of different roles in family and things like that. And I think it's our responsibility to stop and say, how can I be the best family member? Like maybe my sibling will come in triggered, and I don't want to be a detriment or a liability to them having a good time here. I want to be a safe space for them. And I want them to know that I love them and I'm here for them. Right.
Yeah. I maybe just add a couple of thoughts to what you're saying already, Brannon. I think it's pretty incredible. And I think this plays out across the board, across a lot of other things. Like the process of recovery is this way. The same thing is true in a marriage. Same thing is true with family of origin stuff, that there can be a dual nature where you can have these stresses and these worries and these triggers that we're talking about at the same time that there can be deep levels of connection, commitment, joy, love, peace, and they can actually coexist. And in a lot of ways, the reasons why we get triggered so deeply in some of our situations with our family is actually an indicator of how much we care.
Yeah.
And I think that that's really important to realize, that we don't grow in much better ways than the ways we do in our marriages and our families.
Yeah.
Because there is that ability to have some type of built-in care and love for somebody at the same time that there's constant chance for growth. The second thing I would say with what you just said, Brannon, that I think is important here is that idea of my mind just slipped here, Brannon. What did you say on the second part of that?
I said being the asset, being the good family member.
Yes. That I think that's important, that if you're going into the situation, all of us are by nature, we're so self-centered. Every one of us is
egocentric.
Yeah. Every one of us is coming to the family party with us at the center of the universe. And if we could take a step back and actually do a little skill called the relationship thinking skill and put ourselves in the shoes of another person and say, okay, we've been swimming in this water of our family system for our entire life without ever knowing that this was the system. It just was our reality. And now we've gone into the world and we kind of experience new things, and we have partners that actually start to point out the fact that the water is different for them than it is for us in their system. If we can take a step back and at least be willing to question the water we're swimming in, it allows space so that when, we were at the party and your brother starts to pick on you again and you start to push back, you go, oh, let me look at that. Instead of like, hey, what's his deal? Like, it's like, hey,
what part of the system am I?
That is something I need to take a look at and say, what is the part of the system that I am? And am I moving in line with the person I'm becoming and that I want to be? Or am I going into a place that's giving up those values again? Mm-hmm. And if I can stand strong in those values, it might actually in the short term lead to some tension. But I think he said something. It's like, why would anybody want what you just said is, man, I have to go hang out with my family, but I love my family. It's like, well, the way that changes is that if people get to be their own individuals and be authentic inside their family, then everybody gets to look forward.
It's really fun to hang out.
Yeah, exactly. And so we need to figure out how to fight for that as a system.
Yep. Which can be really hard because you've been in this system that you were born into that was just kind of messy and unhealthy. And so to try to shift that as an adult can be hard, but you absolutely can have so much positive influence just by the way that you're showing up. Yeah. And if you show up that way healthy, people are more likely to respond in a healthy way back.
Yes, absolutely. And we haven't even, I know we're just getting short on time, and we haven't even gotten into the in-law side of things yet.
Yeah, that's a whole other episode. I can't wait to lift up my eggnog, Tyler, and proclaim that I am the king of jingling while you listen to it.
And I'll hear it and I'll roll my eyes.
You'll cheers to it and acknowledge the truth of what it is.
Well, see, that's your expectation, and that will probably be short-lived. So you can suffer or not.
It's going to be miraculous. I'm not, I shaved my beard. I don't have my Santa beard going this year. So
I can tell. Yeah, you cleaned yourself up a bit.
Yeah, maybe I'm not the king of jingling. Well, I am, but
you are.
Yeah. All right. Well, happy holidays to everybody, and just enjoy the season. Spread love. And if this episode was helpful, then share it with your unhealthy family because it'll help them get healthy.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.